My name is Liz Whitaker. I graduated from BYU, Idaho with a degree in theater education and a minor in English education in 2012. Probably like middle school is when I realized that the thoughts and feelings that I had about girls were like real similar to the ones that I had about boys. And for a while I was like, well, maybe I just wish I was a boy, but I really like being a girl and that gender resonates with me. But for a long time, probably until like the middle of college, I was like, no, I'm straight. I just like, that was a fluke. And so was that one. And that one also. And also that other one. Like until realizing there's a pattern here. That means you're probably bi. Students at BYU or BYU Idaho or other church schools may recognize the experience of having a crush on a roommate and the really awful, kind of complicated feelings that sort of go along with that. There's sometimes the sense of like, oh, well, this is a temptation, so I'll stay away from it. But when you live with the temptation, it's difficult. So I think around that time I was like, I think we gotta face the music here. Coming out has been a really like gradual experience. I feel like I never had one particular like event. In all honesty, partly because social media is kind of new. I feel like if social media had been around when I was younger, I would have been like, here's an announcement, I am queer. And this is like the announcement. But it just started, I think, kind of in little steps that I remember really clearly writing a journal entry, being like, this is something I never plan on acting on, so it doesn't even matter, but I want to say it out loud that I occasionally have had crushes on girls before. And, you know, it turned into like confiding in one person, like, hey, I think I'm bi, and then kind of confiding in another, and then now it's not even like I feel like I don't ever kind of come out anymore. It just sort of is something that maybe will come up in conversation. Like I never had a moment where I was like, Mom, Dad, I can't remember how it came up. I think I might have just said something about how I had a crush on a girl, and they were just like unfazed because by that time, like, I have a sibling who's queer, and by this time they're like, yeah, our kids are queer. So when I was at a church school, I was very religious. The God I believed in, there were a lot of rules and there were a lot of parameters. And sometimes it took a lot of work to make my experiences fit into like this little God box. And now I feel like then I was religious and I was spiritual. And I feel like now I am spiritual, but not necessarily religious. But I feel like because of that, I feel like I was able to like let God out of this little box. That now my belief in God is so much bigger and more complex and nuanced and all-encompassing. And I know that that's not the journey that everyone has, but it's something that I found a lot of hope in and a lot of beauty and a lot of meaning in. I've talked before about how sometimes there are aspects of the religion that ask you to cut out a part of yourself, and that's like, it's like you're making a Horcrux, you know, that you have to like kill some part of your soul in order to have eternal life, but you're not whole. And I feel like the spirituality that I have now and the belief in God that I have now allows me to be whole in a way that is much deeper and more fulfilling than it was before. Because my family was poor. BYU and BYU Idaho, like the church schools, because they're subsidized by tithing, it's university education, but with the price tag of community college. That means that it is sometimes the only option for a lot of families. I also had this sort of vision, you know, I had never been to like EFY or anything like that. So I had this vision of all these like bright-faced, faithful Mormon people all together in one place. And I was like a little alarmed when they were like individuals. But I also, for a lot of people, this is also true of me, it's just sort of also expected that if you are going to go to college and you are LDS, then you're going to go to college at a church school. So it kind of never really was a question of going anywhere else. There are a couple issues. One of them is that there are not enough resources for the number of students who need them. If you need to see a counselor, there's often quite a waiting list. Sometimes you may not even be able to see a counselor that semester. So that was one of my problems, that like when I went in to see a therapist, because I was dealing with a lot of feelings of anxiety and depression, I couldn't see one for like 2 months, I think. When I was able to see a therapist there, some of the things that I saw a couple of different therapists, and some of the things that they told me did further damage. And if your work as a therapist doesn't value a person in their completeness, it's not very helpful. Students don't need support groups to help them to stop being gay. Students need to be told that they are loved and valued for who they are, no matter what. Sometimes there's so much of a focus on the doctrine and on the atonement being the one giant thing that can solve everything. But God also gave us attachment theory and internal family systems theory and all of these other things to help us to understand each other and ourselves and to heal and to grow. And I think if therapists are not offering true support and true comfort and healing, it's going to do more harm than good. You are okay. You are wonderful. It may feel really lonely and like you're the only one on the whole campus who has ever felt this way, but you're not. I promise. There are a lot of other folks out there who have gone through the same experiences and who are here waiting to catch you. And whatever choices that you make, whether it is to walk the hard line of Mormon doctrine or to be like, done here, I'm gonna be like out loud, proud, queer as possible. Whichever you choose, there are thousands of people waiting with open arms to welcome you. You will find the place where you belong by being yourself. And it takes a lot of courage, but you can be grateful that you don't fit in where you don't belong. And as you learn to have the courage to step forward on whatever path you choose, there are so many people along the way to help you along that path. There is a place for you. Even if it feels like you're not sure where it is, just because you're not sure where it is doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.